loud. All right, are you looking at a picture of a lion, everybody? Shake your head, yes, if you are. Okay, cool. We are well underway now. This is the a little rundown I want to give you about the history of the holiday party. It is not as old as you'd imagine. It seems like it's been around forever, but it's there have been 32 Christmas parties. At first, in the early years of the Poetry Society, they had regular poetry readings in December. They didn't do anything special or different for December. And then there was a long period of time, about 30 years, where they never had any December meetings. Probably just gave up on trying to schedule something during the most hectic month of the year. But when all that seemed to stop was in 1983, and so many of you will know Constance Pultz. She ran the writers group for a long time, and she moved from New York City to Charleston to retire in 1983, and she became friends with people from the writers group, and she gave a reading December of 1983 on the, let's see if I can, this is going to be weird. Okay. She gave a reading. This is Constance Pultz. This is right after Hurricane Hugo. That's what she looked like then. She read Dylan Thomas's A Child's Christmas in Wales. That was the very first official Christmas party that the Poetry Society gave. It didn't really catch on right away, so there were 3-year lapse before the next one in 1986. And what they did was they did a Christmas party where they asked everybody to bring a poem and read it, and that was interpreted in a lot of ways. People brought poems that they wrote, they brought famous poems, they whatever. But those occasions were still at the regular venue at St. Michael's Church or at Second Presbyterian. They called those Bring Your Own Poem. So that was the December Bring Your Own Poem gathering that went on for many years. Then there was a 5-year period where all of the meetings took place at the home of John Bennett Jr. He was the grandson of John Bennett, the founder, one of the founders of the Poetry Society. He lived here. The house you're looking at right now is 95 Rutledge, right across the street from, if any of you have watched, what's that terrible reality TV show that takes place in Charleston, Southern Charm? It takes one of the giant houses in that show is right across the street from 95 Rutledge. This house is about 200 years old, and he hosted the party there for 5 years. And this is John Bennett Jr. Reading. He was the president of the Poetry Society for like 6 years, and that was him. The first Christmas party that he hosted made the high style section. That's him on the right, John Bennett. Some pictures of some members. Jim Cartwright on the left was on the board, and he is the official photographer for the Poetry Society back in the 90s. So a lot of the pictures you'll see from that era he took. He was on the board right up until his last years. He died in 1999 at the age of 91 years old. Joanna Schuman on the right was president of the Poetry Society. She has the record for having the most children of any president of the Poetry Society. She had 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. And she was president for 6 years. A lot of the things that we do now came from her. She's the one who set the standard calendar where it was always the second Friday of every month, and to have regular meetings and to not vary at all in that schedule. Before then, they varied all over the place. So Clarissa Blackmore on the right is Jim Cartwright's daughter. They were a father and daughter board team. They're the only one in history, in the Poetry Society's history, where a father and daughter were on the board at the same time. we had other husband and wife teams on the boards, but never, she was the treasurer. Here's a picture from 1990, and it shows the little spread. Everyone was expected to bring things to the Christmas parties. There's a little shot of inside the house. Like I said, the house was built, I think, between 1815 and 1824, and pretty famous. And you can see he's got it decorated in the style of the federal period. Here's in 1990, they had a band. It looks like a rockin' time. I wonder what kind of music they were playing. It's more, and this is 92. It's same tablecloth. Now this picture intrigues me, and if anybody knows the answer to this, I would love to hear it. So this lady on the couch looks to be like, if this picture is taken in 1992, she looks to be perhaps old enough to have been one of the original members of the Poetry Society. And I would love to know who that is, and if I've got a picture of one of the charter members. So far, nobody's been able to identify her. So that handsome devil on the right is Eugene Platt, picture taken in '92 at one of the Christmas parties. There's Jim Cartwright again. And like I said, he died at 91. The crowded scene around the table, that looks like a nice spread. It kind of makes me hungry. My dinner was not that good tonight. So in the black and gold sweater, that's Fushana Shepherd. She was the very first African-American board member of the Poetry Society. She was elected to the board for the 1991-1992 calendar year. And I calculated that there had been about 162 white board members before we had our first black board member. So that was quite a milestone year. After John Bennett got done hosting the party, they went to you can probably recognize this picture, the Dock Street Theater. The pillars down here, the Dock Street Theater pillars, and then right to the left is that little art gallery area, and that's where the Christmas party was held from 1994 to 1997. After that, it moved to the Gibbs Rotunda, which is the second floor. I don't know if you've ever been in the Gibbs Museum, but it's got a kind of a round rotunda area with stained glass, and the parties took place there from '98 until the 20s. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of parties at the Dock Street or at the Gibbs Rotunda to show you. So I'm showing you the outside of the buildings. Then the party in 2005 was hosted by Harriet Rigney. This is her house at 129 Trad Street. And that is the first Christmas party that I ever attended of the Poetry Society. And if you read the newsletter, that's the one I mentioned in the newsletter that really kind of holds a special place in my heart. She only, I think, as far as I can tell, she only hosted that one party, but it was really, really neat time. Now, between 2006 and 2013, so for 8 years, Oliver Bowman hosted the party at his house, and there's some pictures here. This is the 2009 party. I think you recognize some people. We've got Francis Pierce, who was president, Debbie Scott, who was president, Carol Furtwängler, who was president, and Linda Annis Ferguson, who was president for a very short time, and Ann Igo. And they're all royalty of the Poetry Society. On the right there, that's Oliver Bowman. He was the host. His parties were really fantastic, and they were special. Those 8 years that he hosted that party were among the best of that anyone can remember. And right next to him there is Brian Pinberthy, looking kind of like a baby face in 2009. He was one of our best poets. He lives in Georgia now, unfortunately. Don't see him often enough. One of the highlights, as always, was to share a poem. This is the group all gathered together in the living room to hear everybody's poems in 2009. On the couch here is Susan Laudermeyer's. We unfortunately lost her in 2017. It was a very, very sad time for the Poetry Society. More people gathered to read. Frances Pierce looking very elegant that night in 2010. I love this picture because Britt Washburn in front of the fireplace looks extremely excited to have her picture taken. I think that's a wonderful picture. Barbara and Duke Haggerty, Barbara's been a member of the Poetry Society since 1986, and she hosted, we'll get to that, she hosted a party. There's Eugene Platt again. This is interesting. We've got Elizabeth Platts with an S, and we've got Eugene Platt with no S. The Platt and Platts together at last. More listening going on here. That's Helen Brandenburg on the left. She was our treasurer for a very long time. In the purple velvet, that's Vanessa Kramer. She's been laying out our yearbooks since the 90s, continuously to this present day. And she does a great job on that. Now sitting here reading her poem, that's Joanne Simpson. Many of you will remember her from the writers group. And she was a stalwart. She was a regular member of that, a scientist. She had a PhD, worked for MUSC. She passed away in November, and I was really sad to hear that. She was a very interesting woman, very, very fun. So it was sad to hear that she passed away. Carol Furtwängler and Susan Finch Stevens, looking very festive. There's Linda Annis Ferguson. And there's Susan Myers again. Definitely miss her. She would never miss a Christmas party. She would be here tonight if she were able. Now, when Debbie Scott became president, she decided to change the annual holiday party to a limerick contest. So instead of people just reading random poems and whatever, it turned into a contest, and it turned into limericks and toasts. A lot more people did limericks than toasts, but that was fun. And here's Helen Brandenburg reading a limerick. She actually holds the record for the longest serving treasurer of the Poetry Society. She served 14 years continuously before she stepped down last year. And I'm sure she's glad that she did. She was getting tired of it. Harriet Rigney, and I mentioned she hosted that first party that I ever attended. She is the 5th person in her family line, in her family tree, to have been president of the Poetry Society. And so if there's a dynasty in the Poetry Society, it's in her family tree, going back to John Bennett and Susan Smythe Bennett. And so those 5 people. She's the first cousin of John Bennett Jr. And it was interesting when she read this limerick. You know, all of our limericks were so prim and proper, you know, such Poetry Society limericks. And then her winning limerick rhymed rotum with scrotum. And she really brought down the house with that one. More shots of, these gatherings were very nice when everyone quieted down and listened to the poems. It was always a nice time. That's me. I won the contest that year, the limerick contest in 2013 with a CD of some famous people reading poems. And another highlight of the parties every year was Kit Loney and Mary Harris would do a rendition of Santa Baby. They'd sing it and they'd act it out. And I don't know how many times I watched that. That was always a highlight. And if anybody looks like a poet in this room, it's Ethan Fugit with his bow tie. And I think that's a great shot. He's very serious looking at the camera. Now, after those 8 years at Oliver's house, Susan Finch Stephen hosted the party for 2 years. This is a shot of one of those. We're probably reading limericks in this view. It was a nice place. It was probably a little far for a lot of people to drive, so the attendance wasn't always as good. Here's Denise K. James. She was on the board for a while, and Katrina Murphy, she was president from 2015 to 2017, and looking very happy at Susan's house. And there's Susan's dog, who's always very well behaved and looked very festive in those bells. So after Susan's house, we had 1 year at Barbara Haggerty's house downtown on Bedden's Alley, and it was, oh, that was a beautiful, beautiful party. You can see the fire in the fireplace, and it was a lot of fun. Another shot. Kit Loney. I'm not sure if she did Santa Baby at Barbara's, but probably. And Katrina Murphy again, and Celeste McMaster, who was vice president of the Poetry Society for a while. And the last venue, the last time we had the Christmas party was last year. It got canceled in 2018 because of flooding. We had 3 giant weather events in those 2 years. We had, let's see, we had Hurricane Irma in 2017, Hurricane Florence in 2018, and then we had some freak storm in 2018 that fell on Christmas, on our holiday party's day, and so we had to cancel at the last minute. So 2019 we came back. We did it at Peggy House Studios. There's Charles looking very handsome in his Poetry Society t-shirt, and David Tillinghast, who is he actually has a great uncle or something who was one of the charter members of the Poetry Society, and he himself read for the Poetry Society back in the 80s. And I think that's me over there, looking very tall. And that is it. That's the that's my little history lesson of the, and I can stop the share. All right. And Brian Pimberth, he said, Jim won every year, and I didn't win every year. I definitely lost that year that Harriet Rigney used the word scrotum in her limerick. I think that was, just as advice to any poet out there, I think that anytime you use that word in a poem, you're going to do very well. All right, so now we're going to go to the poetry showcase, and I kind of wanted to do this. This is a lot like our tradition of reading a poem, you know, that goes back these 34 years. But I didn't want to do the regular limerick contest. For one thing, you know, there was never a lot of competition. It was always, you know, maybe 5 people or whatever. And I wanted to make it a little longer than that. So this is going back even further to the tradition of just bringing a random poem. So there's no real theme here. Now, did Kira show up is she here? And if so, I'm not sure. Let's see, so Charles, are people going to be able to unmute themselves now when it's their turn?
Yes.
Okay. Kira, if you're here, then you should unmute yourself and read your poem. And if you're not here, we're going to go to the next person. I wanted her to read. She was the winner of the Skylark Prize last year. And normally the Skylark winner gets to read to the group at the May meeting. And of course, our May meeting was canceled. Let's see, March, April, and May were all canceled last season. So I wanted to give her a chance. to read, but unfortunately, I guess she could not make it. But she did record a video of her poem, and it's on our YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out. All right, next is Danielle Verwers, and that your name doesn't exactly roll off my tongue, but I think I got it. She won. She's the most recent winner. She won the November prompt contest, which is part of the newsletter, which I wish that you would all participate in. I'm getting a, fair good. I always thought I should be getting more submissions for it, and I was very glad to get her poem, which was excellent. And she went the extra mile and recorded a video of it for our YouTube channel, which is the right of any winner of the prompt contest. And tonight she is going to read a poem of her choosing. So go ahead, Danielle.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to read this evening. Tonight I do have a holiday themed poem. It's called Christmas Cow, and it's dedicated to some of my friends who worked very hard to establish a farm in just south of Ridgeway. Christmas Cow. So the heifer died, survived by her calf after a cutting delivery. A scalpel sliced and open hole stitches could not fix. And Abigail, a living witness. Happened down a gravel road, chickens clucked in frozen fair fields. The calf was dropper fed by the king-size bed inside the bedroom nearly every hour. The vet said it was touch and go. Nearly Christmas, this orphan calf alone saved the tired hands of Christ. She stayed up all night, tending earth, a full-time job. Christmas morn broke faithful, and by some seasonal grace, the calf took root, took the bottle, supped warm milk of the word. Outside the ground still cold, snow and blood began to thaw in daybreak. Christmas, Son and Mary looked down upon the motherless, mercy extended, and from behind came a low bellow, like mourning perhaps, if heaven permitted tears, long guttural groans alone aloud. Eyes upward on chatoyant skies, Abigail prayed for stubborn Mother Earth to thaw hand and heart once more. This heavy farm dream taking more than it gave for the present. Now the cold herd from life birth on shifting sand, blood-red clay, hoof upon hoof, she cried at dinner time. I swallowed Abigail's embrace. Oh, Christmas Day, premature, she left to feed the hungry calf, alone on the farm. Oh.
Thank you, Danielle. I wish, in person you can hear the applause, and that's always a good feeling. So you'll just have to make do with this. But so next up is our past president, Katrina Murphy. She was president between 2015 and 2017, and she's an outstanding poet. And what did you bring for us tonight, Katrina?
I will admit that I called Jim today and was like, what are we reading? I don't know what we're gonna read. And my only Christmas poem is so cynical and unhappy that I felt like I just needed to ditch that this year. Like I couldn't. So I went with Southern because, here we are. Scotch is a verb. Scotch is a verb in some parts of the world, but in South Georgia, where the humidity is high and the tempers are short, it's brown liquor in a crystal decanter on the banker's office bar or on the top shelf at the country club. In South Georgia, where the vowels are long and the girls are made up, we don't scotch dates that go poorly. We steal scotch from our granny's company liquor stash, drink it at the top of the silo, talking about the moon and pretending it doesn't burn going down. In South Georgia, where the chicken is fried and everyone says ma'am. We don't scotch our tires to keep our cars from rolling downhill. We sneak farm trucks out past curfew and race down that straight 1.5 mile stretch out past the river, fueling ourselves on cheap scotch and double dares. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you, Katrina. I was actually there when that poem got written. It was at a poet retreat, which was taking place at with Denise K. James and Brian Penberthy. Brian Penberthy, who are here tonight, I think, too. Okay, next up is Ed Gold. He is our Skylark guy, and he has been on the board for a long time. He's the happiest poet in the world, I think.
Thanks, Jim. Well, this poem, it has nothing to do with the holidays, but it does have to do with our time. It's called Just Stay Calm, and it's a funny combination of forms. It's a haibun, which means it's a big prose poem with a haiku right at the end. And the haibun part is a cento, which means every single word is like a mosaic from somebody else. And I think you're going to know exactly who the words are from. So here you go. Just stay calm. It's going to be just fine. We are doing an incredible job. Everything is under control. It's just one guy coming in from China. We do have a plan, and we think it will be handled very well. That's a pretty good job we've done. I said it would go away, and it will go away. Everything is totally under control. Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. Stock market starting to look very good to me. The flu is worse. Just stay calm. It will go away. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. We have handled it very well. I'm choosing not to wear a mask. It's only a recommendation. It's voluntary. So when we have a lot of cases, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at that as, in some respects, a good thing because it means our testing is much better. Really, it's a badge of honor. Some areas we thought may be gone, but they flared up and we're putting out the flames or the fires. This is the Democrats' new hoax. 99 out of 100 cases are totally harmless. It's going to be just fine. We are doing an incredible job. Just stay calm. One day, it'll be a miracle. He will disappear.
Thank you, Ed. That was very topical. I hope that I do not have that badge of honor ever of having COVID, and I hope all of you also can avoid it. This is seems like the nightmare that will never end. Well, I am really glad to have Yvette Murray here to read next. She, I have to admit, I never heard her poetry until she read Warm Up earlier this season for one of our regular meetings, and I was really blown away. I thought for me, it was a highlight of the whole thing. So Yvette, take it away.
I will. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa. Did I forget anything? No, I think I got everyone. Great. I would like to read two pieces, if that's okay. Mine are kind of short, and they're not Christmas poems, but I hope you enjoy them. The first one is called Dog as God, Like Love. There must be a reason that dog is God spelled backwards. I think it has more to do with God than dog, though. Now, don't get your feathers ruffled as I've spoken of God. I let you speak of whatever you wish in it. Dog is God spelled backwards. And in this sentence, both are capitalized. Is dog his mirror image, not man? Dog is loyal. Dog is loving, even when man treats him like a cracked beast. There is a bowed head, sad eyes, and slow wag, seeking to pull the better nature from man. That's all dog wants, is the better part, just like God. And no matter how much savage man throws at dog, she will return time and time again, trying to reach that soft part, which is shivering inside, small, afraid of what the savages did to it. Since we can't really travel right now, I'm going to read a poem called Take the 5 to Harlem. It's for the I2 Arts Collective. And we'll just imagine that we are all in New York right now. Right after the funeral, during the repast, I asked the question, which train do I take to get to Harlem? My cousin quizzed me, why do you want to go to Harlem so bad? I have both pen and paper, I answered. Like a sea turtle, I am guided by its light. I figured out that from my current perch, I should take the 5 to Harlem. Fret, my family did, as I would not wait. A Gullah Geechee out of place, I had no fear of the big city or the rats. All I could see were brownstones, speakeasy, and Friday sessions with Zora and Langston. I have both pen and paper. I want to go breathe the air. I know the footprints can still be seen. In Harlem, I will find the ingredients of my Renaissance, the spirit of spirit. I have both pen and paper. Which train do I take to Harlem? Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. That was great. Enjoyed it immensely. So next up, we have Ann-Chadwell Humphries, and she has a brand new book out. I guess it's not quite out yet. It's coming out. It's expected. It's called An Eclipse and a Butcher, and she is going to read a poem for us.
Can you hear me? Hi, everybody.
Yes.
All right. Danielle, after this is over, let me know how many times you've heard this poem. I'm going to recite the title poem from the book upon which, and I want to show you the picture on the cover of the book, because this picture is taken at about the time about the time of when it happened of the poem An Eclipse and a Butcher. And you'll see that this dog is referred to in there. Her name is Pam. I'm holding her with a rope. And you'll see our little brother and 2 sisters, and they will be referred to in the poem. An Eclipse and a Butcher. Howard Bryce had a soft spot for our mother. He'd plug wedges in watermelon for our family to taste. He'd draw no good, no sale. Bryce's Mercantile was one of only 2 grocers in the county seat, population 397, in that remote Texas hill country. Saturdays, our mother, whom people thought to be more beautiful than Jacqueline Kennedy, piled 4 of us into the 58 station wagon, no seatbelts, no air conditioning, to drive 13 miles past sheep and goats, summer camps and tourist cabins, to the tiny market on the courthouse square. When we pulled in, we kids raced through the screen door. Not yet 10, I had been entrusted to order our usual 3 pounds of hamburger. As I approached the lighted case, Mr. Bryce sang out, "And how is Miss Ann today?" We talked about the great white Pyrenees puppy he had given our family. I watched as raw red meat coiled from his grinder. He swept a quivering pink pile onto a silver scale to weigh, then wrapped it in white paper and flourished the price with a black wax pen. I thanked him as I had been taught, and then joined her mother with her little brother in her overflowing buggy, and joined my sisters at the candy counter. That was July 20th, 1963. At checkout, we asked Mr. Bryce for cardboard boxes for pinhole projectors. On the way out, San Antonio papers headlined the President and Mrs. Kennedy's pending trip to Dallas. But on that day, in a gravel lot of a small town grocer's, a family turned its back to the sky to watch the moon slide across the sun. Thank you, everybody. Holiday cheer. Merry Christmas.
Wow, thank you for that poem. That is wonderful, and I liked hearing you read it. Thank you. All right, so Ann-Chadwell has a new book coming out, and Eugene Platt just had his book release party. I was very honored to have given him an introduction during that, and he is going to read probably a poem from the new book, Nuda Veritas.
Thank you, Jim. But I'm so nervous before I go any further. I need a big sip of this Irish whiskey. Particularly nervous because, among others, my beautiful granddaughter, Maya, and her mom, Troy, have tuned in from hundreds of miles away, so I need to be at my best. When Judith and I married 7 years ago, part of her dowry was a beautiful corgi named Henry. This is a picture of Henry and me taken at the beach a few years ago. Admittedly, I was not very enthusiastic about Henry at first, but it's amazing how attached a person can become to a dog over the course of 7 years. Sadly, Henry crossed over the Rainbow Bridge about a month ago, and this poem was occasioned by his last days. The good vet expresses empathy with kindly blue eyes, but denies me the comfort of hearing my beloved old corgi could be stabilized by the most potent drugs available or any kind of surgery. Intervertebral disc disease, she says, is common with aging corgis, bred to be short enough to avoid the swift kicks of cattle, and agile, fast enough to fulfill their herding instinct. Sympathetic, sensing I am about to cry, she says, we could try acupuncture. And I leap at what may well be a last hope for any corgi. Soon there's the first treatment, long needles penetrating his haunches, with 2 more, 2 weeks apart to follow. Even so, just too few days later, I must turn him to the good vet. No, not for acupuncture again, but alas, another kind of needle. One, she says, will make easy for him, though not for me, his crossing over the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. I know that was a sad time for you to lose your corgi. So next is Derek Berry. I believe you must be the youngest person on our board. It sounds about right. He serves on the board. He lives in Aiken. Long distance doesn't really mean anything anymore. So we are having our board meetings virtually, just like regular meetings. So Derek, take it away.
Hi, I'm Derek Berry. earlier this year, I did a poetry reading at the Columbia Museum of Art where I got to do a poetry reading in person. And it was a reading of ekphrastic poems. And this is one of them that I read. It's an ekphrastic of what is called in the museum an anonymous portrait, which is a marble bust from kind of the Hellenic era. And so I decided to write a poem about the history of anonymous gay hookup culture. This is called Anonymous Portrait. No dirt on your knees after kneeling in a public park behind the bushes. After dark, after the police padlock the public restrooms. No leather bar, no pleasure found in the cigarette stench of a truck parked roadside. No gaudy motels with steam rooms, lube and chlorine, everything too clean and slick with sweat. Instead, caress the screen, cruise control steady and searching for someone whose face reminds you of someone whose name you can't quite recall. Call it ritual interrupted, chat rooms, Craigslist, then the apps, blink chirping through the night, small sirens singing their wants. Call it a tradition, how a man without a head reaches through a body to touch a man without a body. Sometimes in bed, squint at the masks who preen and ask, mask for mask, who wipe glitter from your eyes, smear your lipstick, who prune until you're raw, until flash exposed flesh bends double over to give the camera phone's aperture the best perspective of the asshole, until later you're broken and made whole by the same hands. The avatar, a bust with a broken nose. So in the afterlife, he learns to stop breathing. How do you hold your ear to marble? Listen for the living person on the other side. How do you enter a person, a portal, and arrive somewhere new and unknown? How do you hold a stranger whose face blurs in memory? Careful, reverent, same way you carry an urn with your father's ashes inside. Thanks.
Thank you, Derek. That was great. We have next, Terri McCord and Brian Slusher are going to read one after the other. They are our power couple in terms of winning contests. They have been winning. We have, in the history of the Poetry Society, we have several husband and wife teams who won a lot of contests, combined on large numbers. So you're not the only ones, but you're the current reigning champions of power couple. So you two will go next, one after the other, and just.
Okay. Oh, you unmuted it.
I muted it. It's unmuted.
Hi. Actually, Brian is the champion. Wait,
Yeah, you can read.
the poem that I'm going to read, which is kind of interesting because it kind of echoes a couple of other people, I think. It is actually in the book that I have coming out, The Beauts, which is actually, I have been informed, I should be receiving copies and others should be receiving copies tomorrow. But it's called The Beauts, and this poem is in The Beauts. And it was also featured in the Poetry Society of South Carolina, one of the contests in 2015, the John Edwards Johnson Prize. And it's not exactly well, it's definitely not a Christmas poem, but it's kind of a seasonless poem. And then it also echoes because it's titled God Backwards. God backwards. Heel to the dog like heel to toe, or Achilles. But I hear heel, heel, like a salve, like digging out a splinter. Her legs, like quick matchsticks that don't strike. under tufts of fur, and she obeys for a time the small collie mutt that calls to mind fields of open space and sheep she can chase. And I stand as herder. I have heard the call as I heel, step faster to keep up to her border balance being prance, and I smile, not yet out of breath, as she smiles over her shoulder, shakes the collar and heeds nature's call in another's yard, while I wince in joy.
Snow day. We wake and go briefly blind, dazzled by the whitewashed world, then see the crawling plows' hazard lights gild the frozen roads. The drift of things is towards perfection as the trash bins disappear beneath a flawless veil. School is canceled, so we too halt our learned disgusts and daily feuds and let the mellow peace of coffee leave us silent, wrapped in dreams and quilts past noon. No orphans or outcasts in this utopia of snow, where laughter from tumbling, bundled children slows this hell-bent life. Tomorrow, we will study war, pick at scabs, cling to secrets, but today we fall and make hosts of angels for as long as there is light. Happy scrotum, everyone.
Oh, you went there, didn't you? That's the way to do it. All right, sorry, you know, Terry, I fully intended to introduce you as also one of the ones with a book out. So yes, catch her book, The Beauts, apparently any minute now. And I'm sure they could find that on by a Google search. It's The Beauts, B-E-A-U-T-S. All right. Well, we have just one last reader, and that is Charlest Watts. Now, he in no small way is responsible for the very existence of our meetings this season through Zoom. He has been our trustworthy and stalwart operator of this crazy new technology that we now depend on to meet virtually. So thank you for that, Charles, for one thing. And you are going to read the last poem. Take it away.
Well, let's see here. A lot of my poetry is kind of dark and despairing. And I thought, well, what a perfect night for that. But then I decided I changed my mind. I would take a different path. So with apologies to Robert Frost, the path west taken. Two paths diverged in a greenish wood, though I admit one had more yellow sun bursting through the trees and could lead up a hill where the mountains stood, and the other into the valley, moist and mellow. Darwin the beagle chose the valley, perhaps because of squirrel smell or hares that in the meadow sally, though both on this mountain tally equal in truth when the scents begin to swell. But one pair of footprints showed on each, and both had beckoned in prior days. Both were rife with truths to teach, all well within my meager reach, despite the morning's graying haze. I shall be telling this with glee, when my teeth and hair are far less dense. Two paths diverged in a greenish wood, and we took the one the dog showed me, and that has made all the difference.
So we have a dog theme going on here more so than a Christmas theme. It was great. You know what I wish is that I had prepared a limerick. I was so busy with the with putting together that little slideshow. And limericks are my thing. I admit that I won more than I lost on those contests.
Just come up with one right now on the spot.
Oh yeah, that's not threatening.
No, I want the challenge to Lundy as well, man. You got to bring it.
I wish I could remember one of my old ones. I think one of them started with there once was a poetry society that something acted in the most sobriety. I don't know. Anyway, what I would like to do is offer a toast though. If you have anything to even raise up your hand with. So we are in the last month of 2020. It's getting a lot of press as being the worst year possible, and it certainly has been a challenge. But I think there are a lot of good. We've all found some good places in this year, as well as some dark places. So, and I think everything about 2021 is looking like it's going to be a lot better than this year. So here's to a better year, and here's to goodbye to 2020 and everything that it taught us.
Salute.
Salute.
Oh, and one other thing I want to do before everyone starts logging off is I think Tom Johnson's here from Asheville, and Brian and Terry are here from Spartanburg. How far away are people? We have people from visiting us from a distance here tonight.
Jacksonville.
Wow.
Florida.
Hilton Head Island.
All right.
Nice.
Eugene, your is a granddaughter was here. Where were they logging in from? You're gonna have to unmute.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to say, but it's
okay.
About 1,000 miles away from Charleston.
Okay. Did you get any of your Irish people here tonight?
I'm delighted that my friends Roy and Elizabeth Hills tuned in, as well as my wife Judith, who's downstairs, and to whom I'll be eternally grateful for bringing Henry into my life. I'm really honored to have been a part of this memorable occasion. Thank you, Jim.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom Johnson here. Can you hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you for letting me know about this. This is my first party at the Poetry Society. I've never been to one before. I'm in Asheville, and I appreciate your letting me know about it. And I wanted to say to Terry how much I appreciate her reading. I'm the one who underwrites the Johnny Johnson Prize. Is Terry there?
Yep, she's here.
And I appreciate you reading that wonderful poem. May I just read a haiku?
Sure, why not?
Just it's haikus are short. This is on the three wise men narrative in the New Testament. And here it is. Someone's missing. Where's the wise woman bearing her own gift, rare black pearls? But thank you, Jim, for letting me know about this.
Thank you, Tom.
Great fun being here.
Anyone else, the way that you can always know about what's going on is through my newsletter. If you're not receiving it, give me a shout out and I will get you on the newsletter email list. And so that will get you'll keep in touch with everything that's happening, which this year is probably going to be strictly Zoom. I think that's the way it's going to be. But anyway, Thank you, everybody. I've really enjoyed this. It was a nice substitute for the real thing, and I like that we had people who probably would not have been at our regular in-person Christmas party or holiday party, and they were able to attend tonight. So yes.
Jim, are we not doing limericks? I have a limerick.
You have a limerick?
I want to hear Susan's limerick.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Yeah, I wasn't really planning on it. But yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to pretend I'm eating some shrimp cocktail over here.
There once was a year 2020 that was filled with atrocities aplenty. With no shortage of bad luck. The entire world was amuck. As we waited for the New Year's entry.
Wonderful.
Susan wins the prize. I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah, I don't know what the prize is, but you won it.
I hope 2021 will be the prize.
Yes, I think we're all ready for a good year after this one. So always hope. All right, well, thank you, everybody. And
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll
Good
see you
night.
next
Thanks,
month.
Jim.
Night.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Good to see you all.
Yep.
Ed, thanks for those checks.